Welcome back to the Order and Chaos Show. I am your host, Ron Bell, and coming at you from beautifully cold Wasilla, Alaska today. I think it's probably, 6 degrees right now and snowing. It's better than the negative 20 the other day. Um, but this is episode 2, and this is the interval. Today's episode is entitled, or is, is titled Under Pressure. And it follows directly from our last conversation, When Silence Becomes Instruction. And if you haven't listened to that episode yet, I recommend you start there. Not for context, but because pressure only makes sense once you understand restraint. So with that, let's step into it. Silence doesn't break people. Pressure does. Or more accurately, pressure reveals what silence uncovers. Pressure removes the noise. Pressure removes illusion. This is the interval, the space between what was and what must be. And right now, we're under that pressure. When the noise finally stops, most people expect peace. They expect relief, clarity, resolution. But that's not what comes first. What comes first is pressure. Because silence doesn't solve anything. Silence exposes everything. And once exposure happens, pressure is inevitable. Pressure isn't stress. Pressure isn't pain. Pressure is demand exceeding capacity. And this can correlate across many areas of life, from your own interpersonal pressure to external work pressure. It's all the same. Demand exceeds capacity pressure. That's it. Pressure, demand exceeding capacity. There's nothing moral about it. It's nothing personal. A bridge doesn't collapse because it's bad. It collapses because weight exceeds what it was designed to carry. And people are no different. And there's a reason one of the most misunderstood instructions ever that was ever given was this. It's a piece of scripture from Matthew 16:24, and Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he says, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whosoever loses his life for my sake will find it." Now, Jesus doesn't say this to the crowd. He says it to his disciples, and that matters. This isn't instruction for spectators. It's for people who've already said yes. And the first thing he tells them is not how to lead. It's not how to speak. Not how to win. He tells them to deny themselves. not their needs, not their humanity, but the part of them that insists on control. Because take up your cross doesn't mean seek suffering. It means accept responsibility without illusion. A cross isn't chosen because it's noble. It's carried because it's necessary. And then he says something that dismantles the instinct we all have. Whosoever would save his life will lose it. Now, it's not about death. It's about the quiet ways that we protect ourselves. Avoiding truth to keep comfort. Choosing silence to avoid consequence. Choosing speed over alignment. And we call that survival. But what we're really doing is shrinking. We're shrinking ourselves. But then the reversal. Whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Now, that doesn't mean recklessness. It means refusing to trade your soul for relief. It means letting go of the version of yourself that needs immediate validation, guaranteed outcomes, control over how the story ends. And then Jesus asks the question that leaves no room to hide. What will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Now you notice what he doesn't say. He doesn't say, you won't gain the world. He says, even if you do, what's the exchange rate on your integrity? Dragon, gold. Dragons were gold because that's what we value the most. And it's found where we least want to seek. Now you either align yourself to be worthy of the gold that you obtain, or it destroys you. Circles back around. So what do you give back? What's the exchange rate on your integrity? Are you willing to sell your soul for your integrity? For your peace? For your financial stability? What's it worth to you? And this is where the tension lives. Because the world rewards speed, dominance, exposure, reaction. But the soul is preserved by restraint, by patience, by truth, by timing. And those two are almost never aligned because they require separate virtues. It doesn't mean that you can't possess some of those separate virtues. But what it does mean is when it comes time for alignment, sometimes those virtues conflict. That's why the choice between doing what is right or doing what is best sometimes isn't as easy of a choice to make as some may think. So, this isn't about becoming smaller, it's about becoming anchored. It's about carrying the weight of truth without letting it turn you bitter, reckless, or hollow. I think there's a quote that says, "When you fight monsters, be careful that you do not become a monster yourself." Denying yourself isn't disappearing, it's refusing to let fear, ego, urgency decide who you become. And taking up your cross isn't losing your life, it's deciding what you're not willing to trade to keep it. Hey, sweetie. And because some victories cost more than they're worth, and some silences aren't weaknesses, they're discipline. If episode 1 asked why silence feels uncomfortable, episode 2 answers why it's sometimes required. Not to protect the world, but to protect the soul. Pressure feels like chaos because hierarchy disappears. All of the things you kept separate, your values, your fears, your contradictions, suddenly they collide in the same space. Not because something went wrong, but because something stopped hiding them. See, pressure doesn't create confusion. It reveals that confusion was already there. Most people think pressure is the problem, so they try to relieve it. They try to distract it. They numb it. They retreat back into the house, back into the noise. But pressure isn't the enemy. Pressure is information. And what is information? If you break it down, information is putting things in formation, in alignment. That's what information is. It tells you what can't carry weight, what was never integrated, what was propped up instead of built. Avoiding pressure doesn't solve anything. It just delays the failure. And delays always make collapse louder. Under pressure, people don't become unpredictable. They become honest. To wet the whistle. There are 3 responses when someone's faced with pressure. The first is collapse. Emotion floods the system. Everything feels personal. Every demand feels like an attack. Collapse isn't weakness, it's overload. But when it becomes identity, it traps people where they fell. Think about that. The second response is aggression. Control replaces understanding. Force replaces structure. Aggression isn't strength, it's fear pretending to be authority. And the third response is adaptation. Now, this one is rare. because adaptation doesn't rush, it reorganizes. And Viktor Frankl understood this better than most. In the most extreme pressure a human being could possibly endure, he noticed something unsettling. The people who survived weren't the strongest. They weren't the angriest. They were the ones who found meaning inside the pressure. Meaning doesn't remove pressure. Meaning organizes it. And I'll leave a link or description in the comments section or somewhere in the description to where you can find more about this information. This is from Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. It's a very, very good book. Or when the weight becomes too much, when the cross exceeded what even Jesus could carry in that moment, something remarkable happened. The burden didn't disappear. It was shared by Simon of Cyrene. Simon stepped forward and he carried it. Simon of Cyrene wasn't a volunteer. He didn't plan it. He wasn't spiritually prepared. He was pulled out of the crowd. And the cross didn't disappear. Jesus didn't stop walking. The weight was shared. And that matters. Because it tells us something uncomfortable. Help doesn't always come as a rescue. Sometimes it comes as an assignment. Simon didn't remove the burden. He absorbed part of it. And that's how order returns under pressure. Not by eliminating the weight, but by redistributing it to someone who can carry it for a while. Taking out the cross explains how pressure is carried. Simon of Cyrene shows us what happens when that pressure is shared. But then Jesus goes further. He names the principle underneath it all. Not endurance, not obedience, not suffering. Love. Not as an emotion, but as the moment someone chooses to carry cost that doesn't technically belong to them. That's why he says in John 15:13, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Order didn't arrive through force, it arrived through sacrifice. And what is sacrifice? Giving up something of value today for something of greater value in the future. It arrived through sacrifice. Not the elimination of the pressure, but the redistribution of it. Pressure never misidentifies the weight point. Failures don't happen everywhere. They happen exactly where integrity was missing. Nothing breaks randomly. It breaks at seam. It breaks at the seam. People resent pressure because pressure demands responsibility. Pressure says you are involved in this. If you want peace, prepare for war. Civis pacem, parabellum. Lean too far into chaos and we get anarchy. Lean too far into order and we get tyranny. The task is not to eliminate chaos or to worship order. The task is to carry responsibility at the boundary between them. And silence showed you what was there. Pressure shows you what can stay. This is the interval. And if you like this content, smash that like button, subscribe, follow for more content. We're still here.
Hey, hey, hey. Hi.
Peace.